Hey friends, and on this Fretted Friday, I'm going to show you the Jackson Dinky AR Professional from Japan that I bought back in 1992. Coming right up. This was a guitar that I'd sought after and longed for the longest of times, simply because so many of my favourite players back in the 80s were playing Jacksons. You had everybody from Adrian Smith to Kerry King, Phil Collen, Dave Mustaine, Chris Holmes, and that's just to name a few, and of course the wonderful Randy Rhodes, who started it all off. Grover Jackson originally bought Charvel guitars from Wayne Charvel on the 10th of November 1978, and he wanted to turn it into a slightly more progressive guitar company, and he very quickly came across Randy Rhodes in 1980 and built him a couple of guitars, but decided not to put the Charvel name on the headstock. He decided to put his own surname on, and hence Jackson guitars were born. As fantastic as Jackson were at the time, all of the American built guitars were way out of my price range, with things like the Soloist being their flagship that I really liked. And this Dinky has got a body that's not dissimilar to the Soloist. It's 7/8 of the size of a Fender Stratocaster. Now, this model is a 22 fret, 25.5-inch scale. It's got an ash body. It's got an Eastern rock maple neck with a scarf joint. It has a Schaller but Charvel branded Floyd Rose trem on it, all in black. It's got Jackson tuners, and it's got a locking nut without any zero fret. The pickups are the J50B for the bridge, the J100 VS, which is a vintage single coil in the middle position, and the J50N in the neck. And these pickups, when I originally bought this, just sounded absolutely awesome. I bought the guitar, this was a very limited run in 1992, and that's when I bought it, very locally to me. And at the time, it cost me an absolute fortune, what seemed to me like an absolute fortune, 759 British pounds, which was a lot of money back in 1992. It has a volume pot, a tone pot, and a 5-way selector switch. I'd gone to watch a band from London called Panama so many times, and their lead guitarist was a guy called Armand Serra. He had about 9 Jackson soloists on stage. Saw them play the marquee, and I've never seen so many Jackson guitars lined up. Also, I seem to recall that they headlined a gig at the British Music Fair one year where they were endorsees for Jackson guitars, and I got on really well and knew those guys pretty well back then, and I was desperate to have a Jackson. So in the early 90s, Jackson started to move and make a range of guitars in the Far East, specifically Japan. And actually, between the years of 1990 and 95, the Japanese produced their best Jackson guitars, a little bit like the Japanese Squier Strats that everybody now looks for. These, around the mid-early 90s, made in Japan Jacksons were really sought after, and they still are. It was really considered as the golden era of Japanese import guitars, and at that time they were pretty much as good as the Americans. And I've played a few American Jacksons, and I have to say I really love this. This is the one of two colours that they did the Dinky AR in. This is obviously the see-through red, which I absolutely adore, and they also did a tobacco burst. So this was my #1 guitar from about 1992 right the way through until I bought the PRS SE Torero, and then this became #2. My #2 against this one was actually a Charvel Model 3DR, which I'm also going to show you in a future Fretted Friday. The tones on this are pretty much exactly what you would expect for that era of rock and metal guitar. And these pickups, the J50B and the J50N, are really nice, meaty, high output pickups, and they do sound great. The finishing on this guitar is absolutely immaculate. The fret ends are beautifully rounded off and smoothed, and this guitar was set up perfectly from the day I bought it and is an absolute dream to play. The action is about how I used to like it, which is very low. It's incredibly low for me now. I would say it is a millimetre or a hair under a millimetre. So that is really low, and it is a pretty slim tapered neck that was really popular in the days of the pointy headstock guitars. And yeah, it's just a great guitar to play. This one, it has the Jackson backplate on it, and it's serial number 928654. You may notice, and I have no idea again why this spring goes across on the diagonal. I think it may be something to do with the way that I was setting up guitars back then, but getting old as I am, I can't honestly remember. So I'm sure we'd like to have a listen to a few more of the tones of this guitar. So I really hope you like the tones and the sound of this guitar. I still really enjoy playing it. I've loved getting it out of its case today to show you yet another one of my own personal collection of guitars. And I think this may well stay out for a little while for me to noodle around with it. Let me know as always what you think in the comments down below, my friends. I hope you like it as much as I do. I hope you like the colour. One thing I can tell you is the finishing on this colour, on this particular guitar, has always been really, really easy to polish and to keep clean. And so other than the buckle rash scratches on the back, this guitar, oh, and one tiny, tiny little dink on the front, this guitar is still pretty much as it was when I first bought it. The finish is really, really nice, and I've managed to keep this guitar, even though it was extensively gigged, pretty much damage free, and relict certainly not. Anyway, really hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. If you haven't already, can't hurt to subscribe, and if you do, click that bell icon so that you get to know whenever I'm uploading the next Fretted Friday or my videos on Tuesday. I'll be back really soon with more great content just as soon as I can, and in the meantime, as always, my friends, you take really good care.